Hello, frequent flyers, and welcome to Points of View, the Point Hacks podcast. I'm your host, David Walsh, and I talk to some of Australia's top points collectors. We dive into their backgrounds, stories, redemptions, and of course, their best hacks. So a bit about me. I joined the team at pointhacks.com.au about 2 years ago, thinking I knew a bit about points. Within the first day, I learnt just how wrong I was. Since joining the team, I've seen my points balance skyrocket, and I've booked a number of business class and first class flights. I wanted to create a podcast where I could talk to the experts and share the learnings so you guys can do exactly the same thing. Today we talk to Keith Mason, who founded the Point Hacks website back in 2011. We jump into how he came up with the idea for Point Hacks, how he got into the frequent flyer game, and some of his most memorable redemptions.
Oh, he's hit record.
I've hit record. This is an exciting day. This is the very first episode of the new Point Hacks podcast, Points of View. Keith Mason, founder of Point Hacks. Thanks for coming along.
Hey, Dave. Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
This is a really odd setup we've got going on here.
This is unique.
So we are, we're recording video of this, but if you haven't seen the video, we are literally sitting in two business class seats in a Qantas training facility.
Yeah, not on an actual plane.
Not an actual plane. That is the...
It kind of feels like we're half in a plane, but we're not. And it's quite odd. I want to press the in-flight entertainment and adjust my seat, and I get a few cushions, but none of that's on.
I can imagine the main thing is that you don't actually want to talk to me because
normally, if you're traveling by yourself, normally you kind of, I certainly try and avoid all eye contact with my seatmate.
Yeah, the divider that's here is it's in between us at the moment. But yeah, usually you're hiding behind it, just looking at.
Don't judge my movie choices.
and you take a sneaky peek, and I judge people's movie choices.
Okay, I hope I don't have to sit next to you on a long haul flight anytime soon.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I really wanted to get into it with you around like what Point Hacks is, how the website started, like where the idea came from, a bit about yourself, and sort of like what we see as some of the best hacks for beginners, etc. And
sure,
what might be for Point Hacks in the future. But let's start off. Who are you, Keith?
We'll start at the beginning. Who am I? Who am I? Okay. So by trade, I've worked on websites, with websites, doing stuff with websites since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I studied economics at school, but ultimately I was into technology, and I kind of self-taught myself how to do things on the web.
Yeah.
And that kind of bled into several different jobs across e-commerce and digital media. And Point Hacks started in 2011 as essentially as a hobby. It's been through heaps of different phases of its life, this great thing called Point Hacks. But the origin was that it was really just something that I created to sort of scratch an itch. That being one, to share a bunch of information and just see how that was received. And the second was as a learning tool for myself from that professional development kind of space.
Because it basically started as a WordPress blog.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was me sharing some of my experiences to do with travel, specifically relating to points, and try and articulate those to an audience and see if people were interested. And I've done a few other kind of like little projects here and there on the side.
Yeah.
Some of which had caught some attention, some of which hadn't. And I wasn't looking for attention, for me personally. It's just purely like how can I share this info?
Yeah.
I'd learned some stuff, and how can I share it?
So it's interesting. So how did you actually get into points? Because it's a massive space, and there's so much like opportunity for getting the unachievable.
Yeah.
But what drew you to points? Like, how did you get into it?
Okay, so I'm originally from the UK. I moved over to Australia in 2008. My other half is Australian, and she convinced me that it would be a good idea to spend some time in Sydney, which was more than a decade ago now.
Bit warmer.
Yeah, a bit warmer, kind of nice place to go. I seem to have lost a decent chunk of my English accent in that period as well.
Yep.
So I have this connection to a place that's far away, being UK and family in different parts of the world. So it was logical for me to figure out, well, how am I going to be able to travel and make sure I continue having that family connection back home. and do that in a way that's not necessarily going to break the bank or be too uncomfortable. I did a few trips back to the UK when I first moved over here, like over the first, sort of 2-3 years, just to make sure I was still seeing my folks.
It's a long way to go.
It's a long way to go, exactly.
It's a long way to go anyway, but a long way to go in economy.
I'm not the shortest person. I'm not the tallest person either. I'm 184 centimeters or whatever, but I have quite long legs. And it was clear to me after and I'd traveled to Australia before I moved here, so I knew how long this trip was.
Yeah.
But it was clear to me after my first trip in economy, I was like, I can't do this that frequently, without some discomfort, which of course, hundreds or thousands of people experience on a daily basis.
Yes.
But I just thought there has to be a way for me. There's the front of half of the plane that I'm missing here. How do these people?
How do they afford it?
Yeah. How do they afford it? Or what is the way that I can do this? And I'd kind of explored the world of British Airways frequent flyer program when I was living in the UK. Yeah. So I kind of knew a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I was certainly by no means a total pro or an expert at frequent flyer programs in the UK, but so like that, I guess, helped inform that knowledge. So I was trying to figure out ways that I could, kind of get into it. So I discovered many of the resources that were out there online around, how to get upgrades, for example.
Mainly forums or?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of forums, also foreign content sites, blogs, that kind of stuff that were gaining a lot of steam and a lot of attention, primarily from the US. And all this information is out there, but I realized that no one was really condensing it and making it accessible from the Australian perspective. Heaps of Australian information out there, or info relevant to Australian travelers, but no one that I could find anyway that was making it easy to comprehend.
Yeah.
And I figured, as part of a couple of trips that I'd done, there was all this info. All right, what if I just start condensing that down into some, I won't call them guides, because at the time I was much more writing from my own personal experience, but, what did I do that helped me, score, something or other. With the first kind of key win for me being one trip back to the UK. I think that was then in maybe 2010, actually, where I managed to book just myself on a one-way trip using all the points I had at the time, all the Qantas points I had at the time, Sydney to Frankfurt, and then on to London.
Sydney to Frankfurt?
Yeah, in Qantas business class. Qantas flew direct through Singapore at the time. And that was on the 747. I managed to get a seat in the nose. And it was just it was unreal.
Yeah. It completely changes the flying experience.
It was enjoyable.
It becomes an experience. It becomes part of your holiday versus just being like the gateway, the painful gateway.
Exactly. So I had that was kind of really like I put all the effort into trying to find that seat. That was traveling home just before Christmas time. I wasn't there for Christmas, but in quite a busy time of year. And I just kind of went, wow, right, that really enabled me to do something which I otherwise couldn't have done, literally could not have afforded, even in economy at that time, because it was an expensive time of year to travel.
Yep.
And the only option available for me to redeem at that time was business class, and I had just enough points to do that.
Was that your first business class redemption?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was. Qantas Business, 747, Sydney, Frankfurt.
That's amazing.
Yeah, really cool. So that was, transiting through the old Singapore lounge at the time. Frankfurt Japan Airlines Sakura Lounge, which was tiny but has the amazing Japan Airlines automatic beer machines. Even at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, it's a novelty.
Well, if there's a beer on offer, right?
Yeah. So that was really cool, very memorable.
Yeah.
It was experiences like that. At that time, I wasn't writing point hacks, but it was the slow growth in these kind of, that learning, which then led me to in 2011 launching the site.
I guess once you've done it for the first time, or there's always you see people having done it, and okay, how are they doing that? And then the first time you do it, you're like, oh, it's possible. It's achievable. I did this. I'm in this business class.
It's totally possible. Yeah, exactly.
When was the first time you flew first class?
That was probably more around 2013, 2014. I think my first experience was, again, Qantas. I believe that was Melbourne, Singapore at the time. A380. Again, super memorable. I was like, oh wow! Again, I managed to earn enough points to do this thing as well. Yeah, that was very, very cool.
Yeah.
That's and amazing. Then enjoying the Melbourne first class lounge, which is one of my favorite spots. Super awesome.
When's the last time you flew economy?
Good question. Actually, last year. Yes.
When you have to think about it, you know you've cracked the game.
No. We bought for a family trip to New Caledonia.
Yeah.
We bought cash seats for that one because that was just a no-brainer. It's a short flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started at Point Hacks, what was the vision? What was like who were you trying to make content for?
There was no specific vision. It was purely a question of I have learnt this stuff.
Yeah.
How can not to be like altruistic or anything, but I just had this itch that I wanted to share it.
You wanted to write, you wanted to
and to treat it as a learning experience for myself as well. In terms of how to create the site, how to create this, publish this information in a nicely digestible form. And some weeks I went by a couple of weeks without writing anything, but I always tried to do something at least once a week. And it was just in my spare time to and from my day job.
Yeah.
It was literally a hobby, and it ran like that for several years.
Yeah. So when did it stop becoming a hobby?
It started turning into like, I guess, what you might call a side gig, probably around that period of 2013, 2014-ish. Where I started working on it more seriously outside of my day job at the time. I put a bit more effort in. I realized that there were certain ways to ensure that the site was sustainable from a money point of view, and it was worth me putting my time into it. So I kind of went, I need to invest in this. This could turn into something more than just a hobby. So that's when I put a bit more attention into it. And then over the course of the couple of years after that, it kept on building up steam and having some momentum. And in 2015, 2016, I quit my day job to work on it full time.
It's pretty amazing, really, that it's something that started out as a hobby and something where, working for Point Hacks myself now that it's actually a company that employs people.
Yep, it certainly is.
It's amazing that we have a job that is talking about frequent flyer. Yeah. And like getting business class and first class and talk about
and travel for in new and different and interesting ways.
I can't imagine how that resignation went. So by the way,
it was
I'm off to write about airplane seats.
Most people around me at the time, I've been in the job that I'd worked in for some time, and most people knew what I was up to, and what this kind of where this passion was, and it was no surprise, let's say.
Yeah. So how did it grow from there?
So then I sort of made this really conscious decision that was going to be my full-time job. Yep. So it was me and someone else part-time helping me run the show. But I was doing all of the majority of the writing, all coordinating, other people sharing their information, but I was vetting everything and publishing it. And then I had someone kind of help with some of our advertiser relationships and make sure that we were I was able to essentially write myself a paycheck.
Yep.
And that was the focus for the next period of time, was to ensure that it could continue to to fund me and my family, essentially, because it was my full-time gig. So that was the focus for the year or so following that. But around, after about that much time had passed, I realized that there's opportunity to take this to another stage, which was I don't know everything, and I've never proclaimed to know everything about this particular world, and I need other people's experiences and other people's voices. So I put a call out for other people to write for me. I already had other people writing for the site, but it was ad hoc. Yeah. This was a much more formal, let's get a couple of people or one or two people and see if I can get new voices in and really shore up how much information we can put out on a weekly basis. So it's not just dependent on me, and not just only my point of view and my set of interests. Because up to that point, I would write things that I was interested about and just assume that hopefully other people were interested about it too. And really, that's not gonna cut it once more and more people start reading. Yep. So I really so that was like like the hiring of the first employee was a big deal in many ways. So that's sort of where, or at least the first employee who had really help me with the core of the site, which is publishing new information.
Which is it's a big thing. You spent all this time pouring in your way of writing things, your way of doing things, and getting someone else to
Yeah, getting other people.
Not take the reins, but really help out and
and that was quite an organic process. We had no kind of set I had no set view of how many people or how much or what kind of thing they would write. I just knew that I needed others. I needed new pairs of hands to help. There's only so much that I could do. And I think for any small business owner, that's got to be one of the scariest things that you do is say, I don't know everything. I need help. And taking that leap to then back yourself from you have to actually pay these people to to come and work with you. Like we're going to be able to make this work financially. That it's worth, I guess, your time to invest in other people. And it was the best thing we did. Yeah, by far. It was just like the only way to move the site forward and make it make it what it is now is to have other people involved. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess like as time went on, the traffic to the site grew more and more.
Exactly.
And eventually
there was always
more people got layered in. So,
I like to kind of say it's like a 7 or 8 year overnight success in the sense that it was just something we just chipped away at all the time. And there was never a period where kind of like attention went down or we were in the doldrums. It was just this nice, consistent kind of ongoing growth where we got people who are, in, I guess, what we would now call the Point Hacks community, but essentially commenters, people who are email in, we would answer questions. We're trying to be really generous with helping people, and then they would help other people as well in the comments of the site. And obviously that still happens today, but it was like that was really another thing that I guess really made it work was how generous the readers are or were and are in terms of making the site work for everybody as well.
Well, it's grown into a significant site now. Like Point X gets hundreds of thousands of people visiting it a month, which I guess when you think back to its origins.
Yeah, I remember, single digit thousands being, like, wow, this is amazing.
Oh, it would be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's quite unique and very cool to have been a part of it.
Great.
Yeah.
Another question for you. Have you had any redemptions that have really left a mark on you where you've gone like, yes, that was awesome because of this reason, either it was a great seat or amazing experience?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I touched on a couple of them already. So that business class flight, the first one to Frankfurt was eye-opening.
Your first one usually is, right?
Yeah.
I certainly remember my first.
And the first Qantas first redemption as well. I haven't done too many trips in Qantas first class, but the first one out of Melbourne was super cool. I think my favorite part of the Qantas first experience is nothing to do with the seat or the food or the wine. It's the cool blinds that they have. On the windows.
Yeah.
So
it's that detail.
For those who haven't experienced the wonder of the blinds in or the window shades in Qantas first class,
they're essentially. I think it's most people.
It's essentially. I mean, you have about 3 windows in your seat. First of all, you don't just have one or half.
Yeah.
And it's got this almost paper kind of looking concertina blind on the in between the two panes of glass or plastic that's on the airline. And you have a button which you can use to literally just put up your blind. It lets a little bit of light through, but not too much.
Yeah.
And it makes you kind of feel like you're in a nice kind of calm lounge space.
Yeah.
And you see this blind. There you go. Yeah, that's first class. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Another really remarkable, I guess, redemption that I've had would be on Etihad as well. Etihad first class A380.
Yeah.
There's not too many routes and options you can use this on these days. It used to be a little bit more widespread out of Australia.
Yeah.
But I've had the fortune to, I think fly Etihad first twice now on the A380 cabin. And to me, that's not so much I like about the food or the drink. Like, I mean, I love good food and everything, but this was just like the pure novelty of a pure, like a long flat bench bed, which is not like a seat that's been turned into a bed.
It's like a separate bedroom.
It's so first, I think it's called First Apartments.
Yeah.
And you get your own separate space, which is awesome, with a closing door, which again is awesome, but that's not unique. What's unique to Etihad is this bench seat that's in front of you. So you got 2 seats essentially. Yeah. You got your main sitting, relaxing, kind of eating, dining, watching TV kind of seat, and then you got this bench opposite you, and the bench folds flat into essentially the size of just about a single bed, maybe a little bit narrower. And that's crossways across the plane rather than running down. Google some pictures of it. It's just like for someone who's tall, it's a revelation. You get to lie down with a pillow with a like kind of mattress pad and have someone make your bed, and you just get to go to sleep.
Well, I mean, I'm sure for the rest of us that aren't 185 centimeters, I'm sure it's a revelation as well.
It's just it's the best thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had the joy of traveling with Etihad in first a couple of times. It's just unique. So that to me is very cool. Outside of planes, the other really noteworthy or remarkable redemption I've had was I managed to save up a whole ton of Starwood points at the time, which is now Marriott, and redeem them for 3 weeks of hotel rooms at the West Inn in Whistler. To go skiing.
You're a big skier.
Oh yeah, I love my skiing. I grew up skiing in France as a kid, and it's a bit harder if you're living in Australia, so you have to be a bit more.
It's a bit hotter here.
Yeah, it's a bit hotter. I mean, there are some great mountains here, but
not the volume that you have.
Exactly. I'd never been to Whistler before, and the Westin is one of the best positioned hotels in the town, right next to the gondola there. We're talking a nightly rate for a room of somewhere between $350 to $500 or Aussie dollars rather a night. Using points, it was well priced. They had the availability that we needed. They offer, and they still do this, they offer a 5th night free on your points redemptions if you book 5 nights. So you only pay for 4, so you get this instant discount. And at the time, there was the right opportunity to both have a mixture of buying Starwood points, redeeming them across from American Express, and we banked 2 rooms for 3 weeks at the West Inn Whistler, and that was for family of 4 of us. I think I paid a small cash upgrade on a nightly basis as well to ensure we had a slightly one of those rooms was slightly larger and had a little kitchen and dining area. So essentially, we had this kind of like apartment setup in Whistler, which otherwise for that particular hotel I think would have cost north of $15,000 or $20,000 for that.
Just really like this hammers it. Like stories like this just really hammer in like what you can.
Yeah, it was awesome. And skiing is not the cheapest hobby. So having the way to go to Whistler and do that particular experience was really cool. And actually, I think we've got that booked in again for next year. Yeah. Not quite on that scale, but in terms of length of time. And because pricing has changed and it was not quite as good as it was then. But I'm still using points for that particular redemption coming up. But that one was it was like I literally could not have justified doing this doing that experience in that particular way. No, staying at that place if it weren't for the points. Obviously, I said you have to value on points. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty conscious of the fact of like how much we spent on points for that particular hotel, but I was totally fine with it. That was just like, it's what I've been saving them for. Yeah. So kind of like checks all those boxes of what in terms of what we're talking about for having a goal, kind of going through and making sure you know what you're trying to do. Yeah,
you're doing something you really value as well.
Exactly. It's something we wanted to do, we're aiming for.
It's not just a throwaway holiday.
Yes. Yeah. We won't do it for the sake of it. And it was like, okay, this is worth spending the money or the points on.
Yeah, fantastic.
So Dave, obviously we've spoken a bit about the history of Point Hacks, and you're working quite actively within Point Hacks now.
Oh, I don't sleep.
Why don't you take a minute or two to explain what you've got coming up for the world of Point Hacks? Yeah,
but Point Hacks has got some really interesting things coming out. So first off, this podcast. So we're doing a series 1 of this podcast. So we're hoping to get a solid 10 episodes out, and if you guys love it, we plan to make a lot more of them. So obviously, subscribe to this podcast and make sure you get it in your feed. We'll also be launching big into video within the next year. So cool. Point Hacks has historically been this great written resource with a great community behind it as well. But there's plenty of people that would prefer to A, watch a video on a guide on how to redeem points, but B, like really be able to show people what those points can earn. So as of the start of 2020, the Point Hacks YouTube channel will be very active, and we're also working very hard on making more tools more accessible to people. So what can we do to help people A, understand the value of their points, and B, get into the level of using those points or being confident to use those points for either certain trips or routing, or just how can we help people get a better understanding? So,
what are the most common problems that Point Hacks readers that maybe you're trying to help them solve? What do they throw at you?
So the first things are where to start. So we're putting more and more effort into getting beginners into the site,
Mm-hmm.
all around how do I find availability, how do I find redemption. A lot of the gripes that we hear from people are, okay, I've got these points, how do I use them? I can never find availability when I want to find it. And part of that is a bit of education around, how do we show people, A, how to find the redemptions, but B, how do we help them sort of take off the blinders as to the different ways that you can look for redemption, or how you can vary your travel plans accordingly. And they're some of the main ones that we're really trying to help with.
I think that's I think it's a really cool direction to take.
That and also really helping people try to understand the value of points as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Some really interesting stuff coming out for there.
Yeah, helping people use their points, I think, is super important because in many ways, earning points is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not going to say it's simple or it's doable for a great scale for everybody, but at the same time, certainly the points economy is set up in a way where there are amazing kind of marketing vehicles for the frequent flyer programs and their partners.
Yeah.
Which is all about trying to get people engaged in different products and services, and doing that through the use of points, points landing into people's accounts. But at the same time, airlines just need to, where Point Hacks can help and where maybe airlines can help. It's like, how can you help people use those points?
Yeah.
That's just so important. Because otherwise they just sit there and then they're unused, and it gets really frustrating for people and they get disengaged.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst, is if you've got, even just 10 or 20,000 points, you're like, nah, forget about them. It's too hard. It's like, no, don't.
Yeah. And I've been through that journey firsthand. So, when I joined Point Hacks, I always knew to collect points, and I think that came from, my dad signed me up to Qantas Frequent Flyer when I was 2 years old, so my frequent flyer number is very short, something I'm quite proud of.
Don't announce it.
Oh, I won't say it. I won't say it. But I came into Point Hacks thinking I knew a bit about points, so I knew to collect them, and I thought all I could use them for was an economy redemption. And the amount that I've learned since joining Point Hacks, and the amount of trips I've been able to do in the couple of years that I've been with Point Hacks, has just really turned me into an absolute believer with frequent flyer points, and really what Point Hacks is trying to do is show and help people how to go on that same journey.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of exciting things coming, and this podcast is just the start of it.
Awesome. Do you have any particular travel goals you're aiming for?
So I did, and I've hit them for the next year. So again, big goal was to do a snowboarding trip to Japan. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do a podcast on that with my friend that I'm going with. But we're looking to do, so we're going to be doing business class from Melbourne to Tokyo, and then business from Tokyo to Singapore, and then first from Singapore to Melbourne. So we'll do a podcast on that.
Experience.
And cool. Then a girlfriend and I are doing a business class, first class up to San Francisco and back via LA. So that'll be a massive trip next year as well. So yeah. I think I've burnt through all my points, but now the old saying that if you don't use them, they're not worth anything. So now I'm just back in the grind of earning some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Enjoy.
Well, Keith, thanks so much for coming on. It's been great having you, and thanks for joining us for the first episode.
Been a pleasure.
Hope to get you on the podcast again very soon. That's it for today's episode of Points of View, the Point Hacks podcast. Remember to visit pointhacks.com.au for more frequent flyer deals, guides, and tips. I'm David Walsh, and don't forget to subscribe.